bitch.
Wait, I think we're good.
And there we are.
I think we're good. I think that fixed it.
Okay. Like I was saying, some of you are losers.
Yeah, I mean...
Because some of you voted in the survey and won. You can't have winners without losers.
Yeah,
Participation trophy bullshit.
Yeah, let's insult our audience. That's a great idea.
I mean, mostly Steve. I know he wanted to hear more about Fauci.
Oh dear. Well, look, in all fairness, if we wait a couple of weeks, wow, that's impressive. That's I don't get derailed by comments very often, but that derailed me. Like, I was not expecting that, and that's all I have to say about that.
No, I'll say this about that. White supremacism, the idea that it is the greatest threat that faces our country is absurd. It's insane. It's an outright lie. Now, if you are a white supremacist, as in someone who believes that being white is enough to make you superior to other people, I can tell you now that you're inadequate.
Or a Democrat.
Supremacism, to be superior, is an act of will. It is the act of crafting yourself and your environment and the world around you by the force of your sheer will. You can be a superior person. You can be an Übermensch. But you have to make it that way. So, good luck. Now,
thanks for playing. Well, look.
Speaking of white people, Dave Chappelle is not giving up. See what I did there?
I do see what you did there. Look, and to be fair about the whole Fauci thing, all we got to do is wait a couple of weeks, and that narcissistic gaslighting sumbitch is going to give us something else to talk about.
Oh yeah, and
like
please believe, the next time Fauci screws up, we'll talk about the puppies again, and we're going to end up talking about the puppy situation again. I do want to say this about that before we get into Chappelle, and that is what we're talking about this morning. The thing with the puppies. Let's be very clear. The thing with the puppies, it's horrible. He should be hanged for it. But don't get distracted. Let's stay focused on the fact that this man has caused irreparable harm through his mishandling of the pandemic response situation. By being on the wrong side over and over and over again, by taking multiple sides, by never committing to science, by committing only ever to popular opinion. And what's going on with this puppies thing, it's kind of like Cuomo and the sexual harassment allegations. The media and the DNC, let's be clear, the domestic enemies of the U.S. Constitution, are interested in distracting you from the actual crimes. So you throw up a sexual assault allegation against Cuomo to get him out of office and to blackball him and memory hole him, because you cannot afford for one of your compatriots to be charged with the thousands of murders that he committed with willful malice of forethought, explicitly for political gain. The same thing is happening here with Fauci.
Oh, it's almost like, let's say Gretchen Whitmer was the most unpopular governor in the country, so all
of a sudden the FBI managed to drum up a kidnapping conspiracy against her,
yeah.
In which it turns out that the FBI was the entire impetus of that kidnapping.
Yeah, that one to me. I know there's things you shouldn't laugh at. And hey, that's going to let us segue back to Dave Chappelle, because talk about shit you shouldn't laugh at. But
right.
But
you know what you shouldn't laugh at? The comedians that are criticizing Dave Chappelle, because my friend, they're not funny.
No, but
and I say that qualifiedly, but look, let me back to Fauci real quick. Specifically, the thing that the puppies are seeking to distract from is at almost the exact same time we're seeing admissions coming out of the NIH that Fauci carefully chosen and advisedly used words here, perjured himself before the Senate hearing.
Man, he didn't perjure himself. This is the same group of people that looks you straight in the face and says 3.5 trillion won't cost nothing. It's entirely conceivable that in the rules of that universe, gain-of-function research is not actually gain-of-function research.
That's easy. I can rebut that. Reality is objective.
Look, I agree. I'm making the smarmy point, and just to talk about things you shouldn't laugh at with regards to.
And yeah, we need to get to Chappelle because we're 7 minutes in and we're still talking about the Fauci that we said we were going to talk about.
Oh well, I was even going to re-reference the FBI plot to kidnap Governor. I just blanked on her name.
Gretchen Whitmer.
Thank you.
Whitmer.
Yes.
Ashley Babbitt's low IQ corpse. Okay, here's what's about to happen. I'm going to throw the top comment to Ashley Babbitt's low IQ corpse for the name Ashley Babbitt's low IQ corpse. It's a fantastic joke, and I'm going to cap that with a little story. When we were younger, much younger, we used to play trivia at Hooters all the time. And we were too young to buy beer when this happened. And, well, it was fun. We won the most creative team name one night with the team name Jaw Splitting Girth. And were awarded 1 pitcher of beer. Now, they came over and gave us the beer because we won the competition, and nobody bothered to check any IDs. And at that point, we already had a pitcher of beer on the table. So we're like, we need another one? Yeah, no problem. Because obviously we were allowed to have it.
Yes. And I swear I'm actually going to get the whole thing out. What's funny to me is you dig into the situation with the kidnapping of Gretchen Whitmer. It was basically a bunch of dudes that like to get together and talk shit. And then, like, it was the FBI's plant at every step of the way that was like, well, yeah, but if we were going to kidnap her, how would we do it? Well, if we were going to torture her, how would we do it? And it's like other members of the group were like, man, Dave's a little fucking out there, isn't he? Like, I thought we were weird.
Right. But... And, you know, the way they do that, it's the basic sales tactics. Oh, hey, you just walked into my car dealership, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Bet you need a car.
Yeah.
I bet you've got a job that you need to get to in that car.
Yeah.
I bet you like red cars, don't you?
I guess.
Yeah? Okay. And just keep going and going and going and going. And eventually I'm going to set a contract and a pen on the table, and the first man to move loses. And I'm not going to reach for that pen.
Yeah.
And it works. It's effective. If you're not looking for it, if you don't know about it, if you don't understand psychological warfare and propagandistic psychological manipulation.
So, Dave Chappelle tells trans mob. Oh, we don't have the article pulled up, so I'm reading a headline they can't see. Dave Chappelle.
Headline away, my man.
Dave Chappelle tells trans mob he'll meet on his terms. You will not summon me. I'm not bending to anybody's demands.
Cameron said trans mob. I know it kind of sounded like mom. I just want to clarify. He's not targeting a single individual person who is confused about their biological capacities. It's a whole group of them. So,
statistically speaking, it can't be that big of a group.
It can't be.
I mean... Anyhow.
Oh, Ashley, I think we're going to have fun with you.
Veteran comedian Dave Chappelle says that while he is confused about what they want to speak about, he will nonetheless meet with members of the transgender community under the condition that anyone who meets with him first watches his Netflix special Closer from beginning to end. Chappelle added that he has not bending to anyone's demands. So, just to back up, Dave Chappelle did a special, and Dave Chappelle has done a few specials. Like, he did one a little while ago that was named after the length of time Derek Chauvin sat on George Floyd's neck, and I don't remember anybody being outraged at how controversial that was. You know, like, this is just kind of what Dave Chappelle does. Like,
Right.
He's like, I mean, on the very first episode of the Chappelle Show, he played a black Klan leader who divorced his wife.
When he found out she was black.
No, he was blind, and he divorced his wife.
Right, because he divorced his wife when he found out he was black.
Because she dared marry a black guy. Yes.
Yes.
So, I mean, this is what he does. Like, he finds the uncomfortable spaces.
And the man could crack. I mean, although I am confused about what we're speaking about, I said what I said, and boy, I heard what you said. My God, how could I not? You said you wanted a safe working environment at Netflix. Well, it seems like I'm the only one that can't go to the office. Damn. Tell the little guy to practice reading out loud in the mirror as his comb worked. Okay, Ashley, just for perspective, the little guy is roughly average.
You know, and what's awful is in this context, when they say the little guy, there's only one person they could be referring to. Oh.
Yeah, we're like Penn and Teller, but talkier. and less squishy.
Yes, definitely less squishy. Though,
well, I'm making a political statement. I mean, Penn lost a bunch of weight, and I didn't.
Anyhow.
But Penn was never a steely-eyed killer.
Right, fair enough. So the whole cancel culture thing, look, if you go to the most recent Dave Chappelle thing and you watch The Closer and you watch it from beginning to end, he does tell trans jokes, but he tells jokes about everybody. Like, that's another one of those things that Dave Chappelle does. And
when's the last time you heard?
Hold on. Okay. But he also includes a personal anecdote about a trans person that he was friends with that was actually bullied to death, and even makes fun of said trans person, and says that the reason why he did it is that his trans friend would have found the joke funny. And for some reason... Get off the phone book. We'll look like we're the same size. Anyhow, I say for some reason, we know what the reason is, because virtue signaling is easy and gets attention from the media. But for some reason...
virtue signaling pays dividends and costs nothing.
The transgender employees of Netflix were upset, and, you know...
Yeah, both of them.
Decided that, they should, like, stage walkouts and do all... Like, it's just Dave Chappelle is awful and a monster and all these terrible things, and we're going to give cancel... We're going to... Okay, yes, Chris is bigger than me. All right?
I have a pack of printer paper there if you want to cram that up your ass.
I'm trying to stay on topic here, okay? They can continue to make fun of me and call me short in the comments. That's fine. This is all fine. Because I know I'm about average. Okay, you know what? You're just gonna have to take it. They're trying to cancel Dave Chappelle. I have been thoroughly...
Right now they're trying to cancel you.
No,
they're gonna shut you down.
They can't shut me much further down.
So let's talk about cancel culture and okay, so Chappelle is standing up and Netflix is sticking with him, right? Netflix is refusing to just throw him off, even though that's the demand that's being made of them. And I'm actually going to make sort of a defense of Cutties and Big Mouth here.
You're going to make a defense of Cutties. I'm not.
Or more correctly, I'm going to make a defense here of Netflix hosting those programs. I find them both abysmally offensive. Horrifying. And I won't go into deep detail on what either of them are here. If you're familiar with either of the programs, they are deeply, deeply offensive to anybody with a moral. To anybody who has any love of decency or children. They're both horrifyingly offensive. That said, with Netflix sticking to their guns on Chappelle, despite the woke mob coming to cancel, I have to defend Netflix's retention of Cutties and Big Mouth as someone who is a First Amendment absolutist. Now, there is a time and a place, right? I am not making the argument that having free speech means that you should be handing pornography to children, and certainly not that you should be roping children into pornography. Now, and I make that explicit comparison because Cutties is borderline child pornography. It's probably technically not, but when you're talking about 6, 7, 8, 10, 11-year-old girls, borderline is way too close.
Yeah, you shouldn't even be in the ballpark. Like, not even in the parking lot. Okay.
And I would like to see some very serious criminal charges levied against the parents of the children who were in that film and everyone involved with its production. But for Netflix to stick to its guns on free speech, in stark contrast to the popular trend of most major social media and
you mean like how
dinosaur media platforms,
like how we keep getting kicked off
like
YouTube?
how we keep getting kicked off YouTube for quoting legitimate science, that is a big deal. So I need you to understand something about what cancel culture is, and I'm going to have to pull back to some philosophy here. The lawyers in law school, the first thing that they learn in law school is that crime is harm, right? We've gone over this a couple times in the past. Crime is harm, right? You look at things like the prohibition on substances and the argument that's made by the lawyers that managed to get the Supreme Court to tolerate a prohibition on the use, possession, and production of marijuana, for example.
Plants.
They have to make the argument that the victim is society at large because crime follows the usage. People who use the product are lazy and unproductive and therefore a loss to society, and so society itself is the victim. And that's without even getting into all the bullshit arguments that had to be made surrounding the question of interstate commerce. I mean, it is absolutely unconstitutional for an individual to be prevented from growing a cannabis plant and then using it even abusively on his private property without trading it outside. But anyway, so the crime is harm, right? Now, I am of the opinion, personally, that if you cannot show me harm which rises to the level at which the correct punishment is the death penalty. And my bar for what should be punished by the death penalty is quite a bit lower than what you're probably accustomed to. But if you cannot show me harm that justifies the death penalty, or failing that can be restored, right? The criminal can make the victim whole. Right? If you show me harm and the criminal can make the victim whole, that's when you don't have to go to the death penalty. If the victim cannot be made whole, then the criminal needs to die, because there is only one crime, and that crime is murder and degrees thereunder. Robbery is taking from someone something for which they have traded a part of their life. So every crime, up to and including murder, is murder. And if it's not, then it's not crime. Now, I say all that to get back to here. Cancel culture began in the same ilk, in the same philosophical space as this idea that speech is violence.
Yeah. No.
And the argument that these lefties are making when they say speech is violence is this. They're arguing that in response to their subjective perceived offense at speech made by another person, that they should be legally allowed to defend themselves with force up to and including lethal force for the perceived offense, for the subjectively perceived offense at someone else's comment. That is who these people are. They are literally making an argument that they should be allowed to kill you if you use offensive words in front of them, or not even in reference to them, just if you use them at all. They're making the argument that if a comedian uses offensive language and someone tells them that the comedian used offensive language, not what the offensive language was, just that subjectively the language was offensive, that is sufficient to employ force up to and including death.
You know, we talked about this way back when Richard Spencer got punched. And let me be clear. Spencer's a piece of shit. Nazis are bad. Okay. Like, we all know this. But we talked about...
Oh, Spencer's a great guy. You know he's a great guy. He endorsed Biden.
Anyhow. But we talked about, you know, why it's actually not okay to punch a Nazi, which was the meme at the time. Because he hadn't actually done anything. Walking around and talking and being an asshole. Now, look, ethically, if you run your mouth and you get punched in the face, you know, there's quite a bit of gray area there. But as far as...
there's a very significant legal distinction between insulting language and fighting words.
Yes, yeah. Look, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if it's okay to punch a Nazi, and we made this point then, how long before the definition of Nazi changes, and then when does it start becoming okay to punch things that are not Nazis?
Well, and that happened immediately.
Exactly.
It already happened. Yeah.
Exactly. And the whole thing with speech is violence and Dave Chappelle trying to be canceled, this all ties together because you are correct. They're saying that somehow Dave Chappelle is harming the transgender community, despite the fact that if you watched the segment in question, this is coming from a place of love, and it's very obviously coming from a place of love, and it's such a brilliantly crafted joke because Dave is able to like pull at your heartstrings and make you laugh, and pull at your heartstrings and make you laugh. It's very much an encapsulation of the human condition altogether, and that's what a lot of this really boils down to. The left, the Marxists, that whole thing that gives you your concepts of hate speech, that gives you your concepts of speech as violence and all that. They literally want to go against human nature. It is one of the great fallacies of the Marxists, where they believe that if you could somehow really and truly magically level the playing field, all of these people that have shitty circumstances would just suddenly have the ability to no longer be in shitty circumstances.
Right.
And the only way to get there is to deliberately contradict what you and I understand to be human nature. And this transgender thing is such a touch point for a couple of reasons. Alex made a comment earlier in the thread. At least I'm assuming it's Alex because it said Polytech.
This one are a little bit higher.
Yeah, you might be surprised. It used to be 0.3% of high schoolers identified as trans. Now it's closer to 10%. Some might say it's because of the agenda. Alex, I 100% agree. This is part of the agenda. You got to get the kids young because you can't really sway guys like Chris and I and be like, well, boys can have periods. No, they can't. I promise they can't. That's not how it works. So they got to get them young. And watching you. Oh, please, this is so cringy. Oh dear. Chris is about to just offend everybody. Here we go. But the other side of that is, this particular issue with regard to the science, like it is so fundamental, like it's shocking for guys like you and I to this whole gender thing because, duh, boys are boys and girls are girls. Like, it's not hard. Okay, it's really not. So we're just going to go entirely against human nature. If we can break this barrier, if we can break the gender barrier, brother, all the other ones are easy. Well, why worry about anything else? If you can take kids and you can say, hey, you're 14 years old and you're confused about your body and don't understand the world and feel like something is wrong with you. We used to tell you, welcome to puberty. These are some of the most normal fucking feelings in the entire world. Now we have things like TikTok, where if you're a boy and you wear a skirt and you put it on TikTok, you'll get dozens, hundreds, maybe even thousands of likes telling you you're so brave, you're so bold, you're so beautiful.
Have you seen the thing about the two chicks that identify as demons and use demon pronouns?
No. Yeah. That's
I hope them are happy. I hope them love themselves.
That's okay. Those puns are awful. But that right there, in order to break the science.
They're not joking.
Oh, I understand.
Okay.
No, I understand. It's
like they're serious as the heart attack that they're going to give their poor mothers.
Yeah.
Not their fathers, because they clearly don't have one of those in their lives.
Yeah, you think? Boy, that's one that we could touch on at a later date.
Demon gender.
But
y'all need Jesus.
Yeah, something serious.
And if you knew me better, you'd find that statement hilarious.
Anyhow,
because I don't go to church.
I got it. I got it. I was there, or rather, you weren't there.
I'm a member of the United Theocracy of Capitalism.
But anyhow, Dave Chappelle, it's not just because he's funny and successful and we're training young people to eat the rich and all that. It's because jokes have a habit of making you think. A joke in and of itself contains a hidden truth or a contradiction in action or a new perspective on a situation. So in order to tell jokes and understand jokes, you have to be able to think about the concepts that underlie jokes. And we can't joke about the trannies, right? Because if we joke about the trannies, then we have to think about what it means to be trans. And we don't want that one. The Marxists don't want you thinking about it. That speech better be violence. That speech better be hate. And that's why they want to control the speech. I hope all that came together. Sometimes, hey, don't tell him. Sometimes when he interrupts me, I lose my place. I'm just saying.
I know, and it's hilarious. I know you people love it. And I do mean you people in the most offensive way you can possibly interpret that subjectively.
Boy, that's another one I didn't know was offensive until it got smacked in my face. Like, it was almost literally.
Yeah.
The you people that I said you people to were highly offended. And stupid me, I sat there and was like, well, because I got asked, what do you mean by you people? I said, well, there's two of you? And
well, okay.
You're people?
And you know, people who are offended at things, and I do mean this statement absolutely as a blanket, and I'm going to reference myself here too. People who are offended by things are people who are actively looking to be offended by something. And specifically, the thing that offends them, they're on the lookout, hyper aware, hyper vigilant, for someone to offend them on that basis. I mentioned earlier that I find things like big mouth and cuties offensive. That's because I have children, and in the pursuit of the guarantee of the survival and safety of my progeny, all other lives, to include all of them simultaneously, are forfeit. Right? If I think that it is the thing that it will take for me to guarantee the safety and survival of my wife and children and my family, I will burn your world to the ground. I don't mean that in some metaphysical, existential calamity type. No. I mean, we will be the last living people on the cinder if that's what it takes. Now, I don't see a situation where it actually gets to that point, but I'm trying to describe the severity of my dedication to this proposal. And that's why something like television programming that promotes the P word, which I won't use here because I think we're still in strike range, attacks on children, that kind of programming does offend me. I'm not offended by people making jokes about crackers and white people because I'm a cracker and a white guy. I don't find that stuff offensive because I'm not out there actively looking to cause myself harm artificially by seeking it out.
Well, look, we're long.
Yes, I'm blaming you, victims.
Yes, we're over our time, but you touched on something, and I feel like it's a good place to put a button on it. They're definitely looking for examples to be offended when you talk about trans issues. They're definitely looking for it, and they're looking for it because they want to make an example out of Dave Chappelle, because it needs to be a terrible idea for guys like us to even mention it out loud. Like,
right, so you can't have the uncancelable black guy who's ethnically protected from the left.
That's right. That's right.
Can't have him transgressing.
No. Because what's coming?
Or transaggressing.
Yeah, I was just going to let the pun go. Because what's coming is, like, I have a job with a corporation currently, and it's a fairly large corporation, and I ain't telling y'all who I work for because I don't want some shitburger troll in the comments to call corporate office and say you got a racist that works for your company, and then I don't have a job anymore. And that's what's coming. That's why they want to be able to fire Dave Chappelle. That is...
And to be clear, Cameron is not a racist who should be fired because he's a racist. Because he's not a racist. But the fact of the matter is, 9 times out of 10, when somebody points the finger and says, you're a racist...
Or a transphobe, or
they're
a
not
homophobe.
Wrong. They're not wrong. They're not mistaken. They're actively lying.
Yes. Yeah. And like I was saying, ditto for transphobe, homophobe, xenophobe. Like, I don't have a problem with immigrants. I just want them to not do it illegally.
If I were to concede that anything other than murder and by degrees thereof was a crime in a separate category, the other category would be fraud and all of its various forms.
So yeah, but we're like 5 minutes over. And
my coffee cup is nearly empty.
And speech is not violence.
It's not.
And hate speech is just... And
I mean, I can show you violence.
As soon as I hear hate speech, like, if I'm on your social media feed and I see you posting things about hate speech, like, I take your IQ and I just deduct 15 points from it.
Oh, no. If I see a person use the phrase hate speech on their social media, I take their IQ and I deduct the possibility of literacy from it.
Oh.
You'll surprise me if you can wipe your own ass. All right, y'all be safe out there, and we will see you tomorrow. And look for a survey. We're gonna pop one up in a minute here. We're gonna go get some more coffee, have a smoky treat, and discuss the survey for tomorrow.
Okay, I like this plan.
I like it too. Deuces.